Take Jerusalem! Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus.
Hey son, I wanted to talk to you. I know religion's important and all, but I think you might be taking it a...
Well folks, welcome back to my dirty little desktop here. Another model review from FireForge from their Deus Vult series. As you couldn't tell by the beginning of the video. My biggest goal here is to knock these things out and then compare them in line with Perry miniatures to see how well they mesh together. That way y'all be more easily able to compare which ones you want in your armies if you want both in your armies. Because both have their strange little pluses and minuses to each of them. So we're going to go ahead and crack open this here box and see what it's got for us inside this nice little cardboard container. So right off the bat, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 completely identical sprues of models. They appear to be very multi-purpose. You have both axes, swords, maces, short spears, and crossbows, along with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bodies per sprue. That selection of armored and unarmored heads. Look like 1, 2 are not armored, the rest are armored in some fashion, some way, shape, or form. We also have some blank shields on top with their respective arms, and I'm quite glad to see that these arms are not molded onto the shields. Gives a little more leeway on where you want to put it. As for the bodies don't look all that armored. As you can see, it's more of a, looks like either, I don't know, that could seem like a lot of padded jackets, a lot of tabard looking cloth here and here, maybe a leather jacket here of studs, and then I'm sure you can make this into scale metal, no problem, which is painting, or scale leather, or whatever you want really, but there's no real hard plate from what I'm seeing. So that's maybe one drawback to this, is that you can't have any really heavy armored troops popping out of it. And then on the bottom here, you got your crossbows and crossbow arms. I don't see any accessories with like bolts or quivers or anything. It's just it's just very basic. You got bam crossbows, bam short spears, bam axes, swords, and maces, and that's all there is to it. Oh, I see up here, right here, there are little bitty quivers for bolts, and you get 2 of them. 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them. 4 of them. 4 quivers that I overlooked. That's some tiny modeling right there. So 4 quivers total for 4 of the crossbows on the sprue. So each crossbow has its own quiver then. So that's good to see at least. We got some sheath swords in the middle there. Just 4 of those, I'm pretty sure. So 4 accessory swords. 2 axes of different design. 2 swords of same design, and then 2 maces of same design, and then these short spears are just plain Jane short spears. One's got a twist in it by design, I'm sure, not by melting. And then these shields, they're just basic smooth shields. You can probably paint them one broad color or do designs on them, but there's no real texture to them. It's just straight plastic. And as we checked last time, this sprue is from 2012, so it's only 6 years old for a sprue. They probably got more designs coming out here soon. I know they released a Foot Knight one here lately, so they're coming up with more sprues here and there, I'm sure. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut out one of these models. I'm gonna cut this little placard off if I can. I'm pretty sure I can. It doesn't seem like it's too flush on there. We got one right here. This is gonna be a problem child, but I'll probably just snip it off, do it that way. So I'll get 1 crossbowman and 1 axeman cut out, and we'll see what it looks like afterwards. Alright, and here we have the 1 crossbowman and 1 melee men-at-arms done for the most part. I wouldn't normally just keep them separate and then paint them, because getting in that space right there is going to be hell with the paintbrush because of how tight close it is, but just for the sake of having a fully built model, unlike usually, that we can see what we're looking at here. They weren't too bad to put together. Again, unlike Perry, FireForge has a flat-on-flat surface for arms and heads, unlike Perry's flat and socket for the heads and arms. But overall, it looks pretty good. Unlike Perry, there were no mold lines on the face, so you get a much cleaner face picture than you would say Perry. Because I believe on this one, as you can see, there's a slight mold line on the face. Hard to see on camera, but believe me, it's there. When you prime it, you're going to see it even more. Yeah, the crossbow is kind of interesting because the crossbow armor is cocked at an L shape or an acute L shape, so it kind of sockets in where he's looking over it. You can do that effect pretty easily because the head sits right in there, the arms cocked. The hands are open, so he's kind of like saddled up against the crossbow. I got a little bit of space there, but you're not going to really notice it in a unit of 20 or 30 or 40. So, not a huge thing. I am disappointed by just the lack of accessories compared to, say, Perry Miniatures, which you get a whole bunch of stuff. You get little mini pouches and tiny swords and daggers and other kind of junk you can toss on your model, which is nice to have. I mean, it's good to make them look nice and complicated, nice and rucked out, but for FireForge, you get pretty bare-bones models that, while having a lot of detail, especially in these jackets, there's no real accessories to go around in any way, shape, or form. As you can see, you got some tricky mold lines here that I didn't take care of because we spent more time taking care of it than actually getting the video done. But you will have mold lines on the sides. When we compared to Perry, the scale keeps, but you can see the level of modeling difference between the two companies. Here's like a Perry front and then a FireForge front. They're still detailed, but there's so much more detail in a Perry Mini than FireForge, and they're roughly around the same price point, or at least the same price group. I will say though, I think that there's less frill and they're easier to put together with the FireForge and the Perry, but you do get a real lack, or not a real lack, but a little loss of detail when going to FireForge instead of Perry. See, and these actually have sacks and all that put on them, including the huge accessory options that you're gonna see, that you'll see in the video related to these models. I would say, as for scale, they'll fit pretty well for scale. There shouldn't be anything out of scale. No heroic differences. They all look pretty good and solid when compared to each other. When you compare the melee versions of these models, because both of these models and these ones came from the same box. That's why I'm comparing these. So I'm looking what you get out of a box. And again, it's just the details on the Perry miniature. Is that a bug flailing in the background? Get out of here. What are you doing? Get out of here. You're not a model. The detail levels are going to be more intricate and better on the Perry. But I will say though that more than likely the FireForge ones will be easier to paint due to that lack of detail, the lack of transitions and textures. But if you want a more textured, more intricate model, then you may want to go for the Perry than the FireForge. Get a few other angles here y'all can look at. So you can really see the differences between the two models. But again, if you put them in the same unit, there wouldn't really be, one may look more heavily armored, but there are going to be a lot of huge differences from afar. You're only going to really notice from up close, really. So that's one good thing you get going for you. If you want kind of a more abstract variety to your units, you can mix in the FireForge games and the Perry. So that way, at least from a distance, they'll look the same, but you'll see slight differences when you get up closer to the model. So there you have it. That's the overall look of the Deus Vult FireForge games. Foot Sergeants. You do get 48 models for a pretty solid price point. They are very little frill, and they will be very fast to paint. Additionally, their shields are textureless, so you will have more ability to do custom work on it if you'd like a lot of room to paint on, or if you want to do some water-based decals to put on there. but overall, it's still a very it's still a very solid box set. You're not going to be wrong by getting them. Don't think that me kind of comparing them down to Perry is a bad thing. You're still getting an extremely good value, an extremely good model. It's easy to paint, and still has enough flavor to it and enough details that it won't be super boring to paint. But I'll see you all next time. We'll be reviewing some Eurus miniatures, and I hope you have a good day.